Alright guys, welcome to lesson number 1, course decision. Today I'm going to be getting into the concept of free will, your ability to choose, your ability to focus, and the freedom of thought. These are things that every person has, no matter what color, no matter how old, no matter how young. Every individual in this world has these three abilities. The ability to choose, the ability to focus on what they want to, and the ability to have a freedom of thought. So you basically can decide what you want to think about, when you want to think of it, and what you want to focus on. This is your freedom. It's in your ability to choose. I want to get back to the Genesis. When I go looking at the Bible, for those who are Christian and understand this, it says in Genesis 1:26, God created man in his image and likeness. His image and his likeness. Now, God himself is a creator of the earth, the heavens, and everything in between. He actually is the creator of you too. Now, for those who don't follow that belief, I think you will understand that whether you believe in this Big Bang or a theory, whatever it is, the law of evolution, something had to come from something. Nothing didn't come from nothing, but one thing once was, and it turned into something. So even from that ability and understanding, you'll know that you have a source, whether it's God, whether it's whatever you believe in, but there's always going to be a source. You see, I used to be a seed, a sperm seed, and I was formed in the womb of the stomach. You see, I came from something, but everything comes from something, not nothing. If you can understand that you have a source, you'll also understand that that source is strength. That source is power. That source is everlasting. I believe it to be God, and my connection with him allows me to tap in to his strength, to his abilities, to his power. It says when God created man in his image and likeness, that means he also given you the ability to create as God, to do as God, to be almost as a God. It says in the Bible that, you are all God's children of the Most High God. So you have that ability, but you also have the ability to be of the low creatures of the earth, if you're not aware. That's why you'll see very powerful people to the highest levels of society, and with great ability, great orator skills, and a concept of creative thinking and ability to see what they want and go after it with everything they have. This is the godlike ability within man. But there's also another aspect of men, and that's the ability to be of the creatures of the earth, docile, dependent, unable to create, because you're not aware of your ability in the beginning. And that's what we need to get into, the ability of free will, your ability to choose, your ability to focus, and your freedom of thought. These are all amazing techniques and tools that I'm going to help you tap into in order to start seeing actual results. And I also like this course called Decision, because we all have this ability. We can all choose. What are we making decisions on? I mean, every single day you're making a decision. When you get out of bed, you're making the decision to walk into the world. When you go outside your house, you're making the decision to either drive the car to work, take a train, get on a bus. You're making a decision what you eat. You're making a decision what you watch. Making a decision on what you listen to. Sometimes we're listening to the wrong things. Sometimes we're putting in things that don't build us, that don't allow us to see or witness our potential. And that's why I have these lessons and these courses, because I need you to be aware of that gift within. But I believe in the law of non-use. This is a law that states if you do not use what you've been given, by law it is forfeited. It says in the Bible that Jesus came to untie an ass. There was a donkey tied to a rope. And because nobody was making use of it, he freed it, in a sense. I believe that everyone has a gift. Everyone has an ability. But due to the law of non-use, if you are not using that gift, if you're not using that ability that's in you, it can be forfeited. It can no longer be of use because you did not use it. I want you guys to utilize it, to critique it, to build it, and to grow in it. Now, this is something every person can do, but be aware, you don't have to do it. You don't have to utilize your greatest potential. You don't have to be at your greatest capacity, because you have the ability to choose. So that's why I want to hop into these things. I'm going to give you some practical exercises, things you'll be able to implement today, tomorrow, and form a habit off of it. I'm going to start with the ability to choose, talking about this concept, how it can relate to your day-to-day, and what you can do to implement it. I'm also going to get into focusing on the right things and how to start thinking with the mentality of possibility. Let's get it. Okay, so first I'm going to talk to you guys about the ability to choose. Now, one of the things I learned when I was younger, about fourth or fifth grade, I was reading this story about this guy who was stuck in a Jewish concentration camp. I don't that's so weird. He was stuck in the concentration camp, and there was very little opportunity, right? They took his jewelry, they took his clothes, they took every source of dignity he had. So he's in this camp, his family's gone, he's the only one left. He barely gets enough food to eat. And in this ability, in this place, he's thinking about what strength does he have? What power does he have? Does he have control over anything? Because his whole day is dictated by these German prison guards, and what they're doing is they're saying what he can do, what he can't do. They basically determined the laws for him. They stripped him of everything. So in this chaos and in this horrible state, he tells himself, I still have this ability, and it's my ability to choose, my ability to focus on what I want, my ability to choose what I'm going to let affect me or what I'm not going to let affect me. Now, you guys got to understand, this man is not getting food. He's bony, he's starving, he's hungry, he's abused daily, made to work as a slave, mining. But even though everything's been taken, everything's been stripped, he still realizes his innate strength, his innate power. And he goes back to the basics of humanity, his basics of being human, which is his ability to decide what he's going to focus on. So what he would do was every day when they would give him food or give everyone food, most of the people would run towards the food trying to eat it all up. And what he did was he would save it. He would take a breadcrumb or two and hold it in his pocket for later. He didn't want to eat when everyone else ate. He didn't want to be moved by how they wanted to move him. And in this ability, he began to dignify himself as a person and as a man worthy of respect. He chose what he was going to tolerate and what he wasn't going to tolerate personally. He established a habit of discipline. This leads me to tell you another story of a guy who was put into jail. Now, he was put into jail for revolutionary activity, and they stuck him in prison, and while he was in prison, he didn't want to conform to the norm of the prison because he knew that they could break him physically, but he didn't want them to break him mentally. So every now and then, he would confront the prison guards and tell them, I didn't want to eat food, and I didn't want to wear the same outfit as the other prisoners. And so what they would do is they would throw him into the hole. And the hole is basically a black area, no lights, no opportunity to go outside. He's stuck in there for like 30 days. And normally this will break you. Normally this will destroy you emotionally, spiritually, so that you can conform to the norm of the prison system. What they want to do is they want to break you not just physically, but mentally. And so what he was able to do was he was able to keep his mind about him even in the stressful situation. He realized he had an ability to focus on certain things. So what he did in this time is that he still maintained his dignity. He still maintained his individuality. He would do little things to separate himself. You see, they would give him pornography magazines. He wouldn't take it. They'd give him different things to tempt him. He didn't take it. They allowed him opportunity to watch TV. He didn't take it. Whatever he could do in his own strength to let himself stand out on his own, to remind himself that he is a man of worth and dignity, and whatever he could have done in his ability, he did. Now, was it a challenging situation? Of course. He was tempted daily. He was stressed. He was hungry. He was lonely. He was in solitude. He was trying to maintain his emotional stability as well as his mental health. But in this situation, he maintained it by recognizing his freedom. Recognizing his freedom of choice and focus. You see, in these states, we like to focus on the negative. We like to focus on the bad. When I was in basic combat training, I remember we would do a 3 to 5 mile ruck march in the middle of the night. It was about 2 o'clock in the morning. We started this ruck march in the afternoon, and we would go out to the nighttime. So while I was marching, I was almost hallucinating. I remember I would be out there with my weapon and my gear, and I would look around and I would start to see things in the night, and I was confused. I was like, what am I looking at? What's going on? It's because either I was dehydrated or I wasn't 100% present. And one of the things that I had to confront was the ability to choose. I had to focus on something. Was I going to focus on feigning? Was I going to focus on passing out? Or was I going to focus on completing this mission, getting the objective, getting to the destination? Sometimes I caught myself about to faint, and I would make sure I wasn't. I would literally tell myself, stay awake, focus. And in doing that, I pushed through. You guys got to understand, you have this ability over your body, but sometimes you let your body control yourself. You see, your body, you're not just your body, you're also a mind, a spirit. You're more than just a physical aspect. In these situations, I did tell myself to keep moving, to keep going, to keep pushing. And in doing that, I was able to get through. So sometimes you're going to be in a dilemma, such as a stressful situation, a doubtful situation, a concerning situation where everything is out of your control. Things that are going on, you're surprised, it's getting worse, you're losing money, things are not going your way, etc., etc. And it seems to be going in a downward spiral. It's getting worse and it's getting bigger because we're focusing on the bad, and then we're focusing on the more bad and the more bad. We in this situation do have an ability to choose what we're going to focus. Sometimes when I'm driving and I'm going from a 4-hour trip from different states to where I live, I get to my house and I realize that there's nobody there. There's nothing around me. There's no immediate backup or help or support or guidance or direction. And in this state, I can focus on what I don't have, what I haven't done, what I'm not accomplishing, the money I'm not making, etc. Or I can focus on the gift I do have, the talents I do have, the abilities I can magnify, what I can do. And so I have to decide, and I have to be quick in my decision as to what I'm going to focus on. You see, I normally catch myself in this state where either I choose to be depressed or I choose to be innovative. Either I choose to think or I choose to let others think for me. And what I need to do, and I need to tell you, is that in these abilities is your greatest freedom. Your ability to choose is your greatest freedom. Sometimes psychologists and psychotherapists actually debate this concept on if free will is the only free will we have is our ability to choose. We don't have the ability to consciously decide. Sometimes people debate this, but I want to tell you, you do have the ability to consciously decide what you want to do. A lot of our conscious decisions, however, are dictated by what we believe subconsciously. Therefore, if we are inundated in a situation that puts us down, for instance, you go to a workplace and everyone there is very negative. They say you're failing, you're horrible, you're the worst, they tease you, make fun of you, put you down, etc. Over time, you begin to believe them. And so, in order for you to consciously step out of that situation, it becomes very hard because you've been put into a state of belief of your negativity. Say, I can't do this, I can't do that, because everyone else around me has told me I wasn't able. And so you believe it. And then it dictates your conscious choice. You want to get to a point where you subconsciously tell yourself you're able. you're subconsciously around the right mindsets, the right innovators, because they'll help you consciously choose what you want to focus on and what you want to go toward. This is all really cool. You have this ability, and you can get around people with this ability because everyone has it, but not everyone uses it. Again, this is where free will actually exists, and your ability to choose. I can't dictate 99% of the things that happen in the world. I cannot dictate 99% of the things that happen within my life. But I can choose what I do on reaction to it. Say, for instance, I failed my test. I failed my schoolwork. Or I got fired from my job. How am I going to react to this? Am I going to take that failed test as an example of what I can't do? Or am I going to say, look, because I failed this test, I'm going to go ahead and succeed at something better. Or I'm going to go ahead and succeed at the next one. Because I failed, I'm going to go ahead and make the next one better. Because I suck at this, I'm going to go ahead and become great at it. Because I am not good at this area in my life, I'm going to go ahead and figure out how I can be the best in this area in my life. Or am I going to just accept? Am I going to say, oh, I failed this, or I suck in this area, I'm bad with relationships, and you just settle and agree? You can choose. Do I want to get better? Do I want to progress? Or do I want to settle? Do I want to degress? It's up to you. This is one of the things you can do. When I was in high school, I would fail a lot of classes. Wasn't very smart in the class sense, right? According to the school system, I was getting C's, D's. And I started to let that determine me, who I was. Oh, I'm getting C's, I'm getting D's. I must be a failure. And then I start to believe it. I start to think it. I start to form failure-like habits because my grades dictated who I was. And I put my grade level with my personal level, my personal growth. Kids in college are dealing with stress to another level where some will take leaves. I know good people that I've known, or my friends and family have known, that have had to take time away because of the stress. Leaving school because it's gotten bombarding. Taking over them in another way. The sad part is when we start to dictate our worth on what men give us. Whether that be a grade, whether that be a diploma, a degree. Some of the best things within you, no man can give to you. But we tend to forget this. And our ability of worth and self-strength is dependent upon what men give us. Whether this be a job, whether this be an occupation, whether this be a paycheck. My worth is only as good as how much money I make. And I can guarantee when you really begin to understand your worth and your true value, eventually society and reward. But if you depend that your value is dependent upon what somebody has given you, void of your true value, that means you're getting a paycheck, you're getting paid for compromising what you believe to be right, what you believe you're able. You'll then begin to get into the mentality of worth and value in what someone can give to you instead of what you can give to someone. And your true strength is in what you give, what you provide, what you can do, not what you can get. And this is a concept that we've been learning and programming our children to believe over time. And what you want to get to the point of is the freedom of mind to say, look, my value is what I can give, what I can learn, what I can build through using creative thinking and using my mind, my body, my soul to make it happen. My worth is in my ability to achieve results, to get the reward of my own personal success. Grow in these areas, grow in every area. It starts with the man in the mirror. If I can't confront the hidden skeletons deep within, then how can I help you confront yours? It requires me to go through a deep self-evaluation, time alone, in solitude, in deep prayer, and understanding. If you haven't been able to confront within, this is the time to do it. So that you can go without freedom. You can go with the ability to think freely, the ability to choose willingly, and the ability to focus intentionally. You guys have this greatness within. We're going to get into some more tactics when it comes to focus and the freedom of thought. Alright guys, so now I'm going to give you guys some more tips, tactics, and techniques to implement your focus. One of the hardest things for younger people, especially guys in high school, maybe middle school, is just focusing. Focusing on the schoolwork, the teacher, etc., the class. Hardest thing for me in school is focus. When I was there in high school, I had to sit in class for 7 hours a day. Hardest thing in the world. Just sitting there in that seat and listening for 7 hours. It's a hard thing to do. But I want to give you some advice on how to focus better. Throughout my experience in the military, I learned that focus was very important. I remember one day I was training in the morning, physical activity. And I was doing my pull-ups and I was doing my push-ups. But while I was doing these pull-ups and push-ups, I was half asleep. So I was kind of like a zombie, moving into the notion, doing the action, but I wasn't present. Drill sergeant confronted me. He said, "Private, if you're not going to wake up, I'm going to wake you up." So I woke up. I did an extra lap, an extra couple push-ups, whatever I could do to stay awake, to stay focused. Because I know if I can't focus, then I can't produce. And if I can't produce, then I won't see results. Results are dictated by the action that you put in. And one of the hardest things is the ability to act. If we cannot focus on what we want to see and we don't act accordingly, we won't see the results that are necessary. So I need to help you guys do this, give you the tips, the techniques, and the tools that I've learned through experience, basic combat training, military situations. I want to give you a quick story. One day I was doing a training scenario. I was doing a training, and I was out in Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri. We were out in Missouri, and we were doing our training for prison guards. Now, this rarely happens, but a general wanted to stop by and speak to us. So, a general is a very high rank. He has his own personal security. He has his own convoy, everything big. And at this time, we're still trainees. So this was a big opportunity, and we had to come correct. So what we did was they brought us all into one room. They made us sit still. We had to sit at attention, basically. That means our hands were placed correctly at our legs, and we had to, sit up, stay awake, stay attentive, and listen. Now, this isn't like a normal school situation, because if any of the soldiers were to fall asleep, there would be a bad situation for them. They'd be in deep trouble. Matter of fact, I think we'd all be in big trouble. Usually, every now and then, one or two soldiers will go to sleep, and a general might see it. And if the general catches you sleeping, you're going to be awake for the next couple of days. So what we had to do was we all had to stay awake, and we couldn't leave the room. Now, to my surprise, there was actually a colonel that came to speak before the general. Now, the colonel spoke for a good 45 minutes. I just drank a whole bunch of water beforehand because we were doing a lot of exercise. So in this situation, I had to go to the bathroom because of this. However, I stayed still, I paid attention, I listened as attentively as I could. But after the colonel spoke, I really had to go to the bathroom. Now, to my surprise, the general came up and he was spoken right after the colonel. There was no break in between. So now this is about an hour and a half, 2 hour long time sitting in a chair, having to go to the bathroom. I had to go so bad. But what I had to do in this situation was I had to figure out what I was going to focus on. Now, if I focused on the fact that I had to go to the bathroom, I would have peed in my pants. That would have been very, very bad. It would have been pretty embarrassing. So I had to focus on the general. I had to focus on his message. I had to focus on his word. Now, I did have to go to the bathroom. I had this urge tremendously. But I decided what I wanted to focus on. I said I can't afford to focus on anything else, because if I focus on this need to go to the bathroom, I'll pee right in front of class. So I put every energy I had into focusing on the message, on the general. And in doing so, I didn't have to go to the bathroom as badly. However, once he was done speaking, I ran to the bathroom and it almost came out on the way there. But what I was able to do in my ability to focus was I was able to prolong any sort of temptation or any sort of urgency or need to do something otherwise. A lot of the times we're getting distracted. A lot of the times we have a lot of things that can distract us. We get contemplative and we don't act because really we're not focused. What you want to do is you want to focus to the extent that your focus is pushing you to do more and to be your best ability. In making content and videos like this, I have to focus on the goal. I have to focus on what I want to achieve for the day. Now, of course, I'm going to be tempted. I get a lot of people messaging me. Sometimes there's girls texting me. Sometimes there's things I want to do on social media, etc. But I have to say, look, this is my priority. Focusing on the main objective. When you can choose to focus, you'll get the objective done. You'll get the goals complete. You'll get the results you need. But it requires focus. And focus is penetrating through the noise, the distractions, and not letting anything prevent your goal. Sometimes you're going to have to separate from the masses, the friends, the family, whatever. It's okay. Everyone's done it. But if you want to see the result, achieve the goal, it's going to require that mentality to do what's necessary by all means. Telling you again, when I was in that situation in the classroom, I wanted to go to the bathroom, but I decided to focus on something else. I decided to focus on anything else but what was distracting me. And I actually learned a lot from his message. I still remember his message because that situation was memorable. And he was talking about leadership. He was talking about what makes a general a general. He was talking about some of the things that he's confronted with on a daily basis. The things that he's thinking about. The meetings that he has. The events that he goes to. And it was a whole different perspective to get his point of view of the military. It helped me go forward and it gave me the motivation to get through. So that's what I want to do for you guys. I want to give you guys some more tactical tips, especially on focus. And then I want to give you some ideas where you can freely think. Your freedom of thought. And I'm not saying thinking about, things that are irrelevant to your progression, but I'm saying thinking about thinking ideas that are in coherence to your goals, that relate to what you want to do, to what you want to see come through. So I want to give you some of those things as well. Alright guys, so now I want to give you the tips on focusing better. Something you can write down in your notepad, something you'll be able to do today, and you'll be able to see results from going down the line, maybe a week from now, 2 weeks from now. But you will see results. And if you don't see the results, I'll help you get there. All you guys got to do is message me. My phone number is 203-970-7209. You can contact me, McKinley Bird Coaching, that's BYRD, coaching@gmail.com. So you'll be able to connect however you wish to do so. But focusing is a group of habits. It takes time to be able to focus better. When I was a kid, like I told you, in high school, I had no focus, wasn't able to get through the classroom days. It was hard. It was a hard thing to do, especially when you're young, you're hormonal. You got a lot of testosterone, you want to just go out and do stuff. You want to run around, play with people, ride bikes, drive cars. You want to do that kind of stuff. You want to move around. Get your blood pumping. That's why I joined the military, because it's fun, it's moving, it's doing that kind of activity. At least that's what I thought. But focus is very cool. So I'm going to have you take out your pad and get your pen out too. On the top of your pad, I need you to write down focus with big letters. Now I want you to bullet point a couple bullets. Maybe do like 5 bullet points beneath that. Now in the first bullet point, I want you to put down priority. Because focusing is a priority in your progression. If you don't make it a priority, you're not going to see results. You're not going to get where you want to be. Now, the way you can make your focus a priority is by choosing what you want to focus on. Now, like I said, for the last couple segments was, what are we focusing? We have this choice, we can choose, but how do we do it? So say I want to focus on getting better results at working out. I want to go to the gym more. I want to get up at 4 o'clock and work out. I want to go to sleep at 7 o'clock so I can get up at 3 in the morning. I want to create content. I want to build my business. I want to start doing my brand. I want to get better sales. What are you focusing? What's your time and energy going into? Are you focusing on the fact that you're not getting those results? Or are you going to be focusing on the results that you want to get? The best thing for you right now is to have vision. It says in the book, in the Bible, a man with no vision should perish. I personally believe if a relationship doesn't have a vision, it will perish. If a nation doesn't have a vision, it will perish. If a community doesn't have a vision, it will perish. And if an organization doesn't have a vision, it will perish. But most importantly, if you don't have one, you'll go as well. So I want you guys to work on vision, okay? So underneath priority, I want you to type down your vision. What is your vision? Is it, I want to have the body of God, or I want to have relationship skills like nobody else, or I want to have this amount of sales? Whatever your vision is, write it down and make that priority. When I was doing door-to-door sales down in Maryland, I lived in a little studio apartment, and guess what? I wasn't doing very good at getting sales. I was getting paid less than everyone else, and I wasn't making the amount that I wanted to make. So the first thing I started to do was I would write down my vision, how many sales I wanted to get, what was my goal. Even for this, I have goals. I have a lot of visions written down because I want to make sure I'm focusing on the end results, not the things that are not moving me forward. If you want to progress, you need to do things that get you in the mentality of progressing. You need to get into the state of progress, a progressive state where you're moving, doing, seeing result. We see result from action. So again, underneath that bullet point, I want you to put down action. Action. Big letters, action, the second bullet point. Now, beneath action, put a little dash and write down the activity you will do to achieve your vision. What am I going to do each day? Am I going to get up a little bit earlier? Am I going to work out more? Am I going to make sure that I get up at 7, go to the gym 7:30? I want to get the better sales results. Okay, am I going to practice my speech? Am I going to look in that mirror and practice handling objections? That's what I had to do when I worked for a sales company. We would practice for 2 hours each day on handling objections. We knew we would get them, so we had to practice the obstacles we'd get. A lot of the time we want to see these results, but we're not doing the things to get them. Practice makes perfect, but better yet, perfect practice makes perfect. Simple thing to do. If I want to get better sales, maybe I should practice product knowledge. Maybe I should practice speaking. Maybe I should practice handling the objections. You see, there's something, this amazing concept when it comes to racing. I'm sure everyone's seen a 90-yard dash or 2-mile dash, whatever the dash is, but I'm sure you've seen racers. And I want to tell you, racers train for 5 times as hard as what they're going to race. So if they want to race 100 yards, they're going to train running 2 miles every day. And they're going to go through rigorous training, penetrating training that hurts their mind, their body, and their soul, that really goes deep into them. And they're going to do this training every single day, just so they can run that 100 yards in 4.6 seconds, or whatever the time is. Just so they can succeed when it's go time. It's all about what you do behind the closet, behind the scenes. That's how you can see if the man is interested in progressing, or if he's growing, if he wants to get the results he's looking for. It's by what he does outside of the spotlight, what he does behind the scene. Is he studying? Is he growing? Is he learning? Is he doing more? The things that no one sees, but the things that you have to do consistently in order to be prepared for that one moment. You see, success, people always think there's this thing called overnight success. And Kevin Hart talked about this actually. He said people thought that he just came out of the blue. But they don't understand that he was in the industry for 19 years, getting no's every single day. Steve Harvey at one point in his life was living out of the car for 3 years. He lost his family. He lost his money. But he had one thing, and that was his dream, his passion, his goals. Everyone thinks these guys pop out of the blue one night because they got lucky. No such thing. But there is such thing as an opportunity, and when you get that opportunity, turning it into 2 opportunities, turning that opportunity into 3 opportunities. You want to be in such a progressive state that those moments come frequently, and when they do come, you turn them into more moments. Beautiful opportunities ahead, but they start with you. They start with the value you can bring. They start with the gifting that you've been gifted and magnifying it to another level. Again, there are a lot of things that you're going to have to do behind the closets, behind the scenes. You said, Mac, I got to get up early though. I got to do this and I got to do that. I get it. But maybe we can sacrifice. Maybe we can say, look, instead of spending this time in a place that I don't need to be at, or maybe instead of going to the movies, or instead of going out, maybe I can study more. Maybe I can focus more. Maybe I can critique my craft a little bit more. Maybe instead of hanging out with buddies that joke and laugh and drink and do nothing else, maybe I can push them aside for a minute and go into learning more, studying more, being better at my craft, critiquing. Okay? These are things you guys can do immediately. So I got a couple more bullets for you. Underneath action, okay, I want you to put down, I'm kind of thinking this was off the spot right now, but underneath, so you got the first bullet you have is priority. The second bullet you have is action. Okay, the third bullet is going to be magnify. Okay, magnify. One of the things about focus is that we're not magnifying our focus. If I want to achieve 5 sales within a week, or if I want to get very good in my relationship, or if I want to work out this amount of times in the week, you need to magnify that. You need to make sure it's the only thing you see. Where I live, I actually have a lot of posters out in my place, a lot of posters on my goals, a lot of practical action plans. I have it. I'm surrounded by it. I see it on a daily basis. So I don't forget what I'm magnifying, the focus that's a priority. You want to magnify this. You want to magnify that goal. You want to look at it. You want to see it. So underneath magnify, put down what you're going to do to magnify this. You're going to put yourself around the right posters, the right speakers, the right content. There's this concept called net time. Now, net time is the time we spend in transportation, the time we spend cleaning the house, the time we spend preparing meals. This is net time. The time when we're doing stuff, but we're not really doing a lot. So during net time, you want to make it a priority to listen to something motivational, listen to something inspirational, listen to something educational. If you guys don't know what to do during net time, I have a podcast called The Advocate. This is on Spotify. This is on a lot of different podcast apps. If you can't find it, go to McKinley Bird at Facebook and you'll see it there. Now, what this podcast is giving you is motivation. It's giving you inspiration. It's giving you tools to implement daily. So all I suggest is you put some headphones in, and while you clean the house, listen to the podcast. While you make the food, listen to it. It'll give you some tools, things you can use to grow. Again, underneath magnify, for another bullet, I'm going to have you put down clarify. It's all rhyming. But underneath magnify, you're going to put down clarify. Clarify if you're getting results. Clarify if all the actions that you're doing are leading to an end result. Are you getting something from it? Now, if you're not getting anything from it, just be honest with yourself. Tell yourself, look, I'm not getting the results I want. But clarify that. Clarify that with yourself. Am I getting the results? Is the relationship getting better? Is my working out skills getting better? Is my sales getting better? What's getting better? Is there anything getting better? If no, just be honest and tell yourself, no, nothing's getting better. If yes, be honest and tell yourself, yes, it's getting better. But you want to clarify. You want to make sure you're being honest and truthful with yourself. That's why I said self-evaluation is very important. But you also, in order for you to progress, you got to make sure you're aware of the fact that you're not progressing. You're not getting the results. You're not seeing growth. And if you are, then that's a good thing. You want to magnify that. You want to repeat the process and keep doing what you've been doing, because obviously it's leading somewhere. Okay, and then the fifth thing, the last but not least, try. The fifth bullet is try. So this means try. Try to do something new. That means if you have a newer goal or a newer focus, just try to do something new. Try to do something that will help you focus better. So for instance, you put your action to work, you didn't see the results yet, you magnified the goals, you looked at them, you did all the things I told you, you're still not getting where you want to go. Try something new. Try a different plan. Try a different act. Do something different. You know, it doesn't hurt to try something new. I started trying something new myself. In order for me to get my day going and getting up into a good state, I started diving into a cold bathtub just to wake me up. It gives me this ability to conquer a challenge right when I wake out of bed. I also tried something new as well. Like every morning I wake up, I'll start to say 3 things I'm grateful for. So I'll tell God I'm very blessed for certain things, and it'll put me into a good mood. A lot of the times I go to sleep and I have sometimes I have really sad dreams. And I try to understand, like, why am I having these dreams or whatever? And sometimes they really hold me down. I'll be sad the whole day because of the dream I had last night. So what I do when I get up is I'll tell myself something I'm grateful for. I'll tell God I'm blessed for this and that. And it will magnify those blessings. So when I wake out of bed, I'm looking for more blessings. I'm looking for more great things. And then the first thing I'll do is I'll hop into that cold bathtub. And what it does is that gives me the opportunity to attack something, to overcome something. Right when I wake up, I overcome something I don't want to do. I don't want to hop into a cold bath. It makes my heart beat fast. And I get all freezy. But I do it anyways because it wakes me up and it allows me the ability to attack something, to overcome a goal immediately. So then I'm gluing myself to overcome more goals throughout the day. I said, again, try something new. Be open to a new routine. Be open to a new plan of action. Just be able to try something new and learn from the results you're getting. You gotta figure out what works for you best. It's like an experiment, you know. Hypothesis, this didn't work, you try something new. You gotta figure out what's gonna work best for you. So I love you guys. I'm gonna give you some more tactical tips, especially when it comes to freedom of thought. I wanna get into that concept as well. It's gonna help you progress. Alright guys, awesome. So welcome to the next segment, freedom of thought. I'm going to talk to you about what this concept is and why it's so important. You see, in free will, you have the ability to think, act, and do as you please. Every man has this ability. You see, when God created us, He gave us free will. Now, for those who aren't Christian and don't believe this, even if you believe in evolution, you still have some sort of choice over your life. I mean, even though you could say everything's predestined and, you know, whatever you believe, you have a choice on how you react to situations. You have a choice on how you look at circumstances. You have this choice, you have this freedom. It's called free will. Every person has it. I want to help you guys utilize it to your best ability so you can get the results you like. You see, this is a tool that you have. Remember this. It's a tool for your growth. Sometimes it can be a tool for your demise, but most of the time, if you can use it correctly, it's a tool for your success. And I want to figure out with you how we can use it to get the results we're looking for. So, in your ability to think, you can think of anything. When I was a little kid, I want to tell you, I used to write down goals all the time. When I was about 8th grade, I started writing down goals. And I was in Washington, D.C., I remember this vividly. You know, I'd listen to some Bob Marley, I'd look outside, and I would just fantasize. Now, there's a difference between fantasizing and thinking. Fantasizing can turn into thinking, and it can lead to you doing. Sometimes we have to be aware of what we're fantasizing, because sometimes we can be thinking about very inappropriate things that have nothing to do with our goals. So for instance, my goals at the time were to be a really cool kid in high school. I wanted to go to a high school that was actually like the high school that I went to. When I was in 8th grade, I would sit in my room and I would dream of the high school I wanted to go to. And surprisingly, I ended up moving to a beach town in Connecticut that basically fit to script the kind of high school I wanted to go to. It was like the ideal, typical American high school that I always wanted to go to. And at the time, I was going to go to this other high school that wasn't a good high school. You know, a lot of kids got in fights. There were a lot of guns at the school. Like, it was just a bad place. And I was about to go to that high school. But then surprisingly, we moved and I ended up going to the high school that I wanted. Now, I don't know if all of, old fantasize and dream and, it's going to happen in your life. But I believe that God knows your heart at the end of the day, and that sometimes there's this thing called grace. And grace is a situation you have no control over that just was like exactly what you were looking for. The other day, I've met an awesome woman, and I know that situation was grace. I'm not going to go too in depth because, I don't like to talk too much about what's going on currently. But me meeting her was all grace. It was a graceful situation that I had no control over at the end of the day. Now, I want to tell you why I consider this to be grace and why I don't talk about things currently, because sometimes I don't like to jinx things that are in the making. I'm sure you can understand this. But I call that situation a graceful situation because it happened out of my control. You see, it was an event at the city, and my buddy invited me down to this barbecue. And so because of that, I was like, yeah, of course I'm going to go. And I invited some other people with me. But at this time, I wasn't really thinking about meeting someone cool. I was just thinking about, having a fun time with friends. And so in this, nonchalant moment, I meet somebody that's really cool. And I still don't think too much about it. So I just, meet the person, I end up connecting in a way, we pray together, and I just went on from there. Still not thinking much of the situation. Fast forward a month or two. A month or two later, I'm actually at the point where I'm actually kind of looking for somebody to connect with. I'm actually thinking about settling down in the future, whatever. And surprisingly, this person talks to me at the right time. And then we kind of connect on a different level than we did when we first connected. But it was all about timing. See, grace is about timing. Grace is when a blessing comes into your life at the right timing. Sometimes there's things that happen on time and in the right ways. And I consider that grace. Out of our control, but at the right time, the right place, right people, etc. That's grace. Grace is when you worked hard, you achieved as much as you could achieve on your own, but then by the kindness of another person, they help you out. And that boost and that help is all you needed to get to the next level. That's grace. Tony Robbins talks about grace when he was younger, and the school teacher told him what he could be. It was an older adult male, and he didn't have many role models in his family. But this teacher told him, he said, look, man, you have a gift. You got a gift and you need to use that. You're going to change the world with it. And Tony was like, no, me, really? But he listened to this older guy, and this principal was teaching him. It was telling him what he needed to hear. And Tony always says, that was a graceful situation. Nothing I could have done, but just at the right time what I needed to hear. He was thinking about giving up. He was thinking about, leaving everything behind. But this guy told him what he needed to hear, when he needed it. And that was enough grace to keep him moving forward. Sometimes grace is just out of your hands. And it's always at the right time, the right support from the right person. That's grace. Now I say this to say that grace is in all of our lives. You know, however we want to see it, no matter how small, no matter how big, it's something that we all have experienced in one way, shape, or form, and something you'll continue to see throughout your life. Now, this leads me to go back to the freedom you have in thought, is because you can set goals, you can write down visions, but no matter what you do to achieve them, sometimes the hand of grace, or the hand of God, in my opinion, is very required, is always required. Things you can't control. You know, the chances of you getting killed are very high. The chances of you walking out the street and something happening to you are high. It's grace that you're still here. It's a dangerous world. It's a grace that you're listening. I'm blessed to be speaking with you, right? So think about this. You set the goal, you have the visions, you write them down, you have the freedom of thought. But at the end of the day, what's going to have that come into play is something you couldn't have any control over. Now, this doesn't mean you don't strive and build and grow. It just means you do this with the knowing that there's something more divine looking out for you. There's a hand of grace. There's God. There's whatever you believe that's going to guide you through your circumstance. Doesn't mean you don't try. Doesn't mean you don't give. It just means you do that, but always be aware of the supernatural power of grace. So, freedom of thought. When I was younger, I had goals. I had thoughts, I had dreams. And I also had fantasies. You know, a young teenage kid always has fantasies. Always daydreaming. Always thinking about girls. So I had those things too. But what I did do is I wrote my goals down and I focused on them. And I did not limit. See, at the time when I was in 8th grade, I was expecting to go to this high school within like a year or two that did not represent the high school that I wanted to go to. But I didn't let that stop me. I still wrote down what high school I wanted. I still wrote down what kind of girlfriend I wanted to be with. I still wrote down what kind of person I wanted to be like. And to my surprise, but not to my surprise, all those things happened. I still have that list today. It's about 10 years old now. But I still have that list. And I look at it every now and then because I think it's so funny to look at because of how accurate it is. Now, a lot of the things that happened were out of my control. But I had something that I wanted, and I wrote it down, and I knew what it was going to be. You guys have this freedom to choose and to think of what you want to obtain. It's this freedom that you do have. But a lot of the time we forget that we have this freedom, and we end up limiting these things. We end up saying, oh, I can't think like that, I can't think this big, or I can't think this innovative because, you know, I have to do this, or so-and-so said it wasn't possible. And there's these societal norms and all these other things that play a part. And so we let this dictate our ability to freely think, to freely dream, to freely see for ourselves. And I can't have you do that anymore because what that's doing to you is that's preventing you from being what you're destined to be. You see, Denzel Washington says this awesome quote. He says, anything hoped for is what God has in store for you. So if you're dreaming something big, if you see something a lot bigger than your situation, what most people see for you, that's because it's God just letting you know what's yours already. He's kind of showing you in advance what is going to be yours, what's in store for you. You gotta remember this. You don't just have these amazing goals for no reason. They're somewhere in you aligned with something more divine. It's not just out of the blue. It's not random. Okay? Now sometimes fantasies, yeah, those can be random. But I'm not talking about fantasies. I'm talking about goals, dreams, things you wish to accomplish in the world. Sometimes these things are because you're destined for it. Just a little hint for the future. A little insight of what is going to be. You guys need to pay attention. Be aware of this. When I was younger and I did this, I just did it like I expected it was going to happen. And to my surprise, it happened. I wasn't aware of the fact that, technically I had to go to this high school that was negative or bad because of the district that I lived in. And if my dad didn't get a job here or that, then I would have gone there or whatever. I wasn't aware of all these little things that were so important. All I knew was that I had some goals, I had some visions, and they were going to happen. So I wrote them down. Call me naive, call me crazy, whatever. They happened. They came true. So I still maintain this freedom of thought and this freedom of belief because I know that out of my control, sometimes there's this gift of grace that always comes when in due season. In due season. You might not see it happen immediately, it might not happen tomorrow, but I do believe that grace comes in due season. After you have matured, after you are prepared, once you are ready, once you're at the level to grow, things will come when you're ready, when they're ready, and at the right timing. Sometimes situations that have happened in my life, if they had come a week earlier, would not have been a good time. If they had came 2 days earlier, would not have been a good time. If they had come a day earlier, would not have been a good time. Everything happens on the right time for the right reason in due season. The process is so you can grow into becoming what you need to be to reap the rewards you wish to see. So the reason you have the journey and the process is because the process is shaping and transforming you to becoming what you need to be in order to receive those results. These results will come, but the last thing you want is the goals and the visions to happen when you're not ready for them. So you want a family, but you get the family when you got no money and you can't provide for yourself. That's probably not the best thing. I know you want a family, I know you want a wife, you want kids, but if you got them right now, ask yourself, would it be the right time? Probably not. You want a girlfriend, but is it the right time to have a girlfriend if you are not prepared to handle a girlfriend? You want a girlfriend, but you don't understand women. You want a boyfriend, but you don't understand men. You want to get married, but you don't understand the concept of marriage. Think about this. God sees your goals, He sees your visions, the world sees it, we know what it is, but you need the process to get prepared for it. It's only strengthening you for that season of reap. The last thing you want is to get married when you're not ready for it. You want to be prepared before you do it. You want to know what it's founded on, what the morals are, the backing, God, etc. You want to know some stuff before you hop into some stuff. So there's always going to be a time that's necessary and required for you to educate, for you to learn, to be prepared. So when it happens, you're ready. And the same thing can be for a business. You want a business. I want a big business. I want to change the world. I want global companies. Okay, cool. So let's see if you can handle your own branding, your own little thing. If you can handle the small stuff, then you can get the big stuff. Sometimes these are necessary for you to grow. So don't give up hope in the process. Don't give up hope in the journey. It's necessary. It's required. It's a prerequisite. When you guys go to school and you need the prerequisite, you need 4.0s, you need to graduate this class, that class, and the third class. You need the A's and the B's. You need those grades as a prerequisite in order to get to the company or the job, whatever. There's a pre-requirement for it. There's also a pre-requirement for the goals you have. That pre-requirement is the education you're going to need, the tools you may have to utilize, the people and the relationships you may have to form, the encounters that have not happened yet but will be happening soon. Last thing you want is to encounter somebody that could really help you and not be prepared for it. Run into an awesome person that could change your life, but you don't know how to talk to people. So God's going to help you during the process. You're going to grow. Prepare you. Areas you're weak in, areas you need to strengthen in. This is all required. But it should not stop your freedom of thought. Never, ever, ever do this. If you do this, you're limiting your potential. You're limiting what God has created to be unlimited. As a matter of fact, you're actually putting limitations on what He is able to do through you. Again, some of you guys are like, I don't believe in all that, but you got to listen to me right now. If you limit yourself, you're limiting what the Creator can do through you. If He has a plan for your life, which I believe He does, He's going to make sure you complete it. Period. It's going to happen. It's destined, right? Products do not get formed without purpose. You are not made without a reason. You have purpose, you have reason. It's destined to come in due season. But you gotta remember that if you limit yourself, you're actually limiting what God can do through you. And what He can do through anyone is unlimited. Because He's the one that created everything. Remember these things, okay? Please do. Freedom of thought. I'm going to give you some tips, tactics, and techniques to advance your thinking. But it's also more than that. It's more than your thinking. It's actually your knowing. I want to advance your knowing. I want you to know truly what you're able. Okay? And I'm going to give you a couple of tips to know truly what you're able. Because this goes beyond thinking. This is a knowing. It's a boldness. It's a being. Okay? And it's you. It's the essence of who you are. So the first thing in order to understand your knowing is try to form a relationship with your Creator. Relationship, number one, relationship with Creator. Okay, relationship with Creator. And if you don't believe you have a Creator, I'm going to let you know, try to find a Creator. Creator for me is the one that created the heavens and the earth, God, who came down as man as Christ and took the sin so I could be free. That's my Creator. Okay? So number one, relationship with Creator. With Creator. Okay? Relationship. Not religion, relationship. Okay, that means understanding you are a son or a daughter and you have a father that knows you by name. Relationship, not religion, relationship. Okay? This is a beautiful thing when you have relationship. I used to have religion, but not relationship. I'm talking about relationship over religion. Okay? The second thing is understand yourself. Understand yourself. If you need help doing this, rewind some of the lessons and go back to self-awareness. But understand yourself. Who you are. What you can really bring to the world. Are you living to the fullness of your potential? Do you know what it could be? You know what it is? Understand yourself. Third thing, know your potential. Okay, know your potential. Know what it is. Know that you have potential. Potential is like kinetic energy. Okay, it builds, it grows as time goes on.